Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Apparently it's been a few days. It's always been a few days. Lately it's been 5 days between each episode. I'm just realizing that. When I started this, it was every day, every couple days. Now it's once a week. Which is fine. I never intended this to be an everyday thing. In fact, I was even telling some friends when I first started this that I'm just going to crank out a few episodes at first just to get some episodes out, and then I'll slow down, and then I unintentionally did just that. So, yeah. Anyway, if I sound different, it's because I have a new microphone app. Well, not microphone. I have the same microphone I've been using. New audio recording app. It's a Dolby. It's an official Dolby app. I don't remember the exact name, but I only found it because of Google Play. Every year around this time they have like an awards thing where all the users nominate. I mean, they have nominations, and then you vote for your favorite apps in each category. And then the like productivity app, or like app of the year or something like that. I don't remember which one. There was this one. I'd never seen it before. And I was like, oh, Dolby has an app? Let's check it out. And so I was kind of playing around with it. And supposedly it records, and it makes the audio sound better than normal. And I was playing around with it, and it did sound better. Like, even just like without I have a professional mic, even just my phone's default camera sounded better than normal. And then I plugged in my microphone that I bought for podcasting, and it sounded even better. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because in the app it records in the supposedly it records in the normal mode, and then it also records in their fixed whatever, and you can toggle between the normal recording and the Dolby enhanced recording, and it goes from sounding clear to sounding like all grumbly and airy. And I'm like, I don't know if it's actually grumbly in the normal, or if they're just making it sound that way to make themselves sound better. But just offhand, it sounds better. I don't know. I'm going to use it for this episode, and if it actually, cause I don't know, I didn't think to like export it and put it on my computer and test it out. I don't know if there's a way I can like post like a test episode like on Podcastics without actually like posting it, just to see like how it sounds, because I don't know how all this will go and everything or whatever. I'm literally winging it every episode. This is the 15th episode, and I'm still winging it. A little bit more planning, though, because I thought of this episode yesterday, and to prepare with the Zodiac Killer episode, I had been planning it for 2 weeks, and I prepared and I rewatched my favorite documentary on it. I rewatched the movie, and I was watching other videos, doing some research, and then yeah, I did the episode. So far, I'm looking at the YouTube channel, and so far it's my most watched video, as in people actually watched it. There's 41 views, which is surprising. Let's see what my second most viewed is. There's the Mandela Effect one has 13 views. Ghost Stories Part 1 has 7 views. Horror Films has 5. Super Mario 3D All-Stars has 1 view. Podcast Update has 2 views, and that's the only videos that have any views. At all the other videos, no views. So, anyway, I had more planning in that episode, and I got more views. So in this one, I thought about it yesterday, and I prepared by I actually didn't do anything. However, I did write this episode years ago. Because I have a blog. Let's see, when did I post this? October 31st, 2012. It was my Halloween post that year, apparently. I did a post in my blog about conspiracy theories. And I was going to make it a series, because I was going to post 3 conspiracies in this, and then like when I'm out of ideas of what to post, like, oh, let's do some more conspiracies, and then I never did any more posts. So I might do that with this. I plan on covering more than the 3. I'm gonna read this post, and then I'm planning on doing like an edit on the post and saying, hey, this post has now been turned into an episode on my podcast. So, like, there's that. But I might make this into a series, like the Ghost Stories one. I was trying to stay away from, because there's a bunch of topics I wanted to cover, but some of them they were like, I don't want to say scary, but they're like kind of the darker ones, like this. And then there was a couple of, there's a book that I have that I wanted to cover, but it's about like the paranormal. And I was like, well, I should have done that in October. But then I was thinking, well, you don't have to only do scary things in October. So, like that, I was being held back by thinking, oh, I can only do that stuff around Halloween. So I'm going to do those at some point. But I will expand on this post here in this episode. But I'm going to read the note here that I have at the top. I will simply give you the info I have and let you decide for yourself what you think. Also, just because I include a conspiracy does not mean that I believe it. It only means I find it interesting enough to include. I thought that was important to include, because every time I talk about conspiracy theories, even if I don't believe it, people are like, oh, you're crazy, you're just spreading those lies. Like, well, no, I'm spreading something that I think is interesting. Don't necessarily mean I believe it. I don't believe in the flat earth, but I sometimes share their posts like, isn't this interesting? It's stupid. I laugh at this flat earth stuff. I actually have a couple friends that honestly believe it, and they get mad at me when I make fun of it, and I'm like, why? What's your evidence? Because NASA says it's round. Because NASA says it's round, do you know it's flat? Because it's the government. They're going to lie to us about everything. It's like, so your evidence is that they lie about everything? So the most basic thing you're going to say they're lying about? Yes! Okay. So anyway, I'm going to start this with Nixon murdered Joplin Hendricks and Jim Morrison. I didn't include it in that because Jim Morrison was the next conspiracy. But anyway, see, this conspiracy theory, I honestly don't believe this, but I found it interesting. A friend of mine kept telling me about this, and I was like, yeah, whatever. He said that there was a... Actually, I'm just going to read what I wrote, and then I'm going to add to it. I was originally going to only post about this tonight, but while I was researching it, I came across more things and decided to make this a collection of conspiracies. According to this one, which is a link to the blog post I got it from, President Richard Nixon was afraid to not be reelected. That sounds a little familiar. So, he has some high-profile musicians followed and tapped. He didn't like the messages that Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, but again, I didn't include him in this, were spreading to voters. So, he had their drinks poisoned. This sounds like a ridiculous rumor, and probably is, considering that when Joplin and Hendrix died, 1970, there wasn't an election in sight. Nixon started his term the previous year. Although it is true that some high-profile musicians were watched, it's unlikely they would have been killed, much less by order of the president. If anything, they would have been detained. So, okay, about this, a friend of mine kept telling me about this. He said there was a documentary that was going to be made about it. This guy was making a documentary about it, and he was approached by Men in Black and was threatened and told not to make this documentary. I don't know if this is true. I couldn't find anything about that specific story. But my question is, if that actually happened, how would we know about it? He's making a documentary and he's told not to continue it, and he stops work on it, and yet we somehow know about it. What's the point of stopping him from... I don't know. Personally, I don't believe this theory, because, like I said in there, they probably wouldn't have been killed, because that would have... you kill someone to silence them, and then people are like, why were they killed? And then they look into it, and like, hey, there's a conspiracy, let's follow that. And then it just makes it worse. So, if anything, if you want to do something like that, what you should do, and what is actually done, is discredit them. Because no one will take them seriously. If you make them out to be like a laughingstock or like a crazy person, like if Tom Cruise or Kanye West or someone came out and said this, we'd all laugh and say, oh, of course you think that. And you think Janis Joplin was murdered by Richard Nixon? Yeah, classic Kanye. Yeah, because I don't know if he's been discredited. I don't know if... Okay, well, I've read his tweets. I wouldn't say he's crazy, but he's not all there. People get really upset when you criticize Kanye. But what I'm getting at is, I don't think they were killed by Nixon. They were... yeah. The next conspiracy, and the reason I didn't include Jim Morrison in that was... Jim Morrison faked his death and is still alive today. That's why I didn't include Jim Morrison in the previous one, because it was supposedly the three of them that were killed by Nixon. But, yeah. It says, on the 3rd of July, 1971, the lead singer of The Doors, Jim Morrison, was found dead in a Paris apartment bathtub. No autopsy was conducted. And because of this, many theories have popped up over the years. The biggest one is that he never died, but faked his death. He has even been found, supposedly, that links to a video. The same has been said of Michael Jackson, also linked to a video. See, that I also don't believe, and that is because of Coast to Coast AM, which is that I said in the previous episode I'm going to do an episode about that, and I keep forgetting about it until I bring it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that. George Norrie, who's the host, I think he's still the host now. I haven't listened to Coast in years. When Art Bell passed away, I looked online I wanted to hear the episode of that day. I didn't know this until I went to listen to the episode. George Norrie found out about his passing on the air. He actually, he interrupted the guest speaker and broke the news, and you can hear it in his voice, he's trying to stay professional. I'm like, oh, this is heartbreaking. But anyway, yeah, a long time ago, I think it was I want to say 2007, 8, or 9, one of those, he had the members of I think it was 2000, doesn't matter exactly when. It was in 2007, 2008. That's when I was mostly listening to it, and 2009, not as much. And I didn't decide to stop watching and listening. I just stopped. I just kind of faded from it. But anyway, he had the members of The Doors on, the surviving members of The Doors, and they were talking about Jim Morrison and his life and these kind of theories. And all the members of The Doors say that they can't see Jim being alive because he had to perform. That was his personality. He had to be in front of crowds and perform. That was his life. That was his personality. And if he was alive, there's no way he'd just be in hiding. He would put on a disguise and perform or something. And they haven't seen that, even in another country somewhere, some obscure magician that, oh, this could be Jim Morrison. No, they said that it's definitely not him. He's definitely gone. So, I don't think this is true either. There's 2 conspiracies I've posted so far, and I don't believe either of them. I remember the video that I linked here. I'm not clicking it because it's going to take forever and there's no point because you can't see it anyway. It was this guy. Somebody was filming a crowd, and this guy, he was dressed like Jim Morrison. If Jim Morrison was going to fake his death and go into hiding, would he dress like Jim Morrison? I don't think so. It's like the guy that I saw this other video. It's kind of the same thing. John Lennon's still alive, and it showed this guy he had the long hair and the glasses like John Lennon, and it was like, "Hey, John!" And the guy looks up and he's like, "Oh!" and he runs. Yeah, no, that's fake. That has to be fake. Because John Lennon, if he was to fake his death, well, for starters, there's no way John Lennon faked his death, because he was assassinated in front of people. People saw him die, and the doctor said he held John Lennon's heart in his hand. So, yeah, because I have heard people say that John Lennon faked his death. And Elvis Presley, those videos, the videos of Elvis spotted, and he's dressed in the Vegas attire, the white outfit, and he's got the hair and the curl and yeah, no, I can't do the voice, but yeah, if a celebrity is going to fake their death and go into hiding and then risk going out in public, they're not going to look like themselves. They're not going to look the way you know them to look. However, as for the video I link of Michael Jackson, that one I'm a little more on the fence about, because it's a video of the the coroner van, I think, where there's the famous shot of after he passed away, they put his body in the back of the coroner van, and this video shows it looks like that same van go into an area, and the gate closes, the doors open, and Michael Jackson hops out. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh wow, I guess he faked his death. But then somebody said that it was disproved, but I haven't seen the evidence of that. So I'm not going to say Michael Jackson's alive, this video proves it. I'm just saying it's possible that it could be real, it could be fake. Most likely faked. Okay, about a year or two after Michael Jackson died, there was a whole album released of new material. And you could say that he did this album before he died, but the whole point of the "This Is It" thing is he was preparing for a comeback tour, and I remember him, they were saying that he was going to do this tour of 50 shows. It was him coming back, and then when he was done, he was going to record his first new album in 10 years or something. But then he died before the tour even started, and then an album came out, so he died before he could even record the album. So did he survive to record the album? Is it unreleased material? I didn't listen to the album. I'm a fan of Michael Jackson. I like his music. I didn't listen to the album because I never got around to it. Speaking of celebrities who possibly aren't dead, I'm not entirely convinced that Tupac is dead. And when people were saying that, I used to make fun of them, and I'd be like, okay, just let it go. I know you're a fan, but you need to get over it. He's gone. But then, someone sent me a bunch, I posted about that once on Facebook. I was like, I wish people would stop saying Tupac's not dead anymore. Yeah, because clearly he was shot and he's dead, and then somebody sent me a message. They bombarded me with links, and I went down each one, and by the time I got to the last one, I was like, I don't think Tupac's dead. And I don't remember everything, because I've looked more into it, and there's all the knowledge I have of that story it's blended in together. So I don't know what I got from those links and what I got from after. But there's more than enough evidence to say that he's still alive. For starters, the hologram. When the hologram appeared, I was already one of the people that believed that he wasn't dead. But that's what I tell people now, is like, hey, look at that hologram. In the hologram, he says Coachella. Coachella didn't start until after he died. Where did they get a recording of him saying Coachella? And then there's an even bigger one. This is what fully convinced me, because after all those links, I think one of the links was this documentary. It was a documentary on the life of Tupac, narrated by Tupac. Which it was not that surprising. I mean, he probably did an autobiography recording thing, and he tells his life story, and it's a really good documentary. But how that convinces me that he's not dead is it includes his death, him getting shot in the car, and his funeral, and the effect it has on his mother, and everything. And it's his voice, it's him, if the credits, it's narrated by Tupac Shakur. And I don't know if they found somebody who sounds just like him and got them to dub the last couple minutes, but when I thought it was gonna cut off and then be like, hey, he died at this point, or his mother was gonna take over the narration. But no, he told the story of his own death, and I was like, that's a little sus. Not to mention all of the collabs, because even Tupac, even Biggie has collabs with people who weren't even out yet. I think there was Eminem did a collab with Tupac. And I think at the time Tupac was shot, Eminem was still underground. He was still in the 8 Mile phase of his life before he was living 8 Mile. So he was around, but he wasn't collab with Tupac around. So, and I know I brought that up with somebody once, and they're like, "You idiot! They had recording of Tupac rapping, and they just dubbed that into Eminem's song." Okay, whatever. My thing is, there's a lot of collabs with Tupac, and he wasn't even famous for that long. I don't even remember how long. I think he was famous for 3 or 4, maybe 5 years. And they're still releasing new Tupac music. How I understand he could have had a backlog of recordings, but how much recording could he have possibly done? Because that's a lot of extra recording for somebody who died unexpectedly. Now, I would understand if he got sick and he knew his time was short and he just recorded non-stop. That's one thing, but he died unexpectedly, supposedly died unexpectedly out of nowhere, suddenly, and they have so much back catalog recordings that over 20 years later they're still releasing new music. That I don't buy that. Now, if he had been famous for 20 years, if he was to die now, and 20 years from now they're still releasing new music, that I would buy. I'd be like, okay, yeah, there's probably a ton of music that he has, but he was only famous for a couple years, like I said, so. Yeah, and then Biggie, I'm not so sure. as Tupac was the one that, because everyone, those two were together. Because they were friends. They died not far apart from each other, and supposedly died similar. Like in a car, like someone drove by and shot them. So, like, they're always compared together. And I'm pretty sure Tupac is dead. I haven't really seen much. I mean, I have seen, there are collabs with him, but again, unlike the Tupac one, like, Tupac's collabed with everyone. Biggie, there's only a few. I've only seen a few collabs. So that's more realistic with someone who died suddenly, was only famous for a few years. So, yeah, Tupac's not dead. Oh, and then I also saw one of my coworkers last year. She showed me a picture of this guy who they believed is Tupac. Like somebody caught him out walking and they took a picture. And I was like, yeah, right, it's probably somebody, like, let me guess, it's somebody with a bandana, like, it's tied in the front, and it doesn't even look like him. But she showed me the picture, and there's no bandana. I mean, he's dressed like, he's just, like, plain clothes, normal. But it's the face. Tupac had a very unique face, like the elongated, kind of long face. It's very unique, and he had, like, gray hair. So, Tupac didn't live long enough to have gray hair. It was just this older looking guy, kind of middle-aged guy he had gray hair and Tupac's face. Of course, I acknowledge that could have been photoshopped, but it didn't look photoshopped. It could have been a really good Photoshop. But just looking at the picture, I was like, whoa. Because when she said it's a picture of Tupac alive now, my first thought was, of course, it's the Jim Morrison, John Lennon all over again. He's gonna dress like Tupac. But no, he was in like a sweat, he was in like a sweater and khakis, and it looked like he wasn't trying to be seen. He was kind of like out. He was like walking in the sidewalk and someone took a picture of him. I don't know. It was last year. I don't even know if I'd be able to find it. But anyway, moving down to the third conspiracy. Enhanced photo proves grassy knoll. Yeah, any talk of conspiracy theories usually ends up with this story. Everyone knows the story of the Kennedy assassination. There have been 1,000 conspiracy theories made about it. In fact, the Wikipedia article for the conspiracy theories I linked just now above, with conspiracy theory was linked to the Wikipedia, and Kennedy assassination was linked to the link to the Wikipedia page. The Wikipedia article for the conspiracies I linked just now is longer than the Wikipedia article for the actual event I linked before it. But the one that seems to stick around is that there was a second gunman on the grassy knoll. This is one I actually do believe. The evidence speaks for itself. If Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK from behind, why did the bullet enter from the front and the back of his head explode like that, and then like that is a link to the Zapruder film? Anyway, a photo from that day has been enhanced to reveal what many believe to be proof of the shooter at the grassy knoll, known as Badge Man, linked. A figure of a person behind a puff of smoke is clearly visible. And obviously I can't show the picture here in the podcast, but this one I actually will click on, because I want to describe the picture.
After the assassination...
Oh, okay, it's a link to the video.
Everybody was contacted at work by FBI agents.
Alright.
Over undeveloped film. All there was the scene of an extraordinary event. Behind the deaths, there was a car. And in 1963, all of the party...
Okay, anyway, that's a video, and it's a long video, and I'm not going to search for it. I'm not going to search for the picture. Basically, someone took a picture that was taken, like, they just happened to take a picture at the time that, the assassination was happening. I don't know if they knew what was going on, or if they were just like, oh, the president, click, 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 click. Oh, he's been shot. Whoa. And then, but somebody took one of those pictures a few years ago, and they enhanced it. The camera was across the street from where the Zapruder film was filmed, and it's facing the grassy knoll from the other side of the motorcade. And so, if there's a gunman there, the picture would have captured it. Unfortunately, the picture's black and white. So someone enhanced it, and there's a clear shape of a person and a puff of smoke. So, yeah. As for the the Kennedy assassination itself, yeah, I'm totally in the conspiracy camp for that, because, and I've been called crazy for this, and everyone's been called crazy for this, but think about it. Seriously, think about it. Think of the Zapruder film. How does he react to getting shot in the head? The Texas Schoolbook Depository was behind the motorcade. It's famously behind where the motorcade was at. And yet, like the Oliver Stone film says, he goes back and to the left. If he was shot from behind, why would he go back when he's shot? And why, you notice in the video, the back of his head explodes. Which, that looks like an exit wound. Like the bullet exiting. It doesn't explode on impact, it explodes on exit. If he was shot from the back of the head, why did the back of his head explode? So, therefore, he was shot from the front. The grassy knoll. It's like common sense, but then everyone that says that's called crazy. You just gotta look at the scene of the crime, know where everything was, and then watch the footage of it actually happening, and you're like, no, that doesn't make sense at all. But, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't told that. Well, you weren't there. You can't speak for it. We have a video, and we have testimonies of people who were there. I don't know. But there have been some crazy conspiracy theories I've heard about the assassination. I have a friend that said, if you look at the Zapruder film, it's obvious that the driver of the motorcade shot him. After he said that, I'm like, wow, I never really thought to pay attention to the driver. So I watched the footage again. I looped it 10 times, and the driver doesn't shoot him. He looks back to see what that noise was and what's going on. Because my friend said, you notice he doesn't drive off till after the final shot. Yeah, because it happens out of nowhere. He didn't know what was going on. He looks back, sees the president's head exploded, and then he drives off. That one just proves itself. That one again. Watch the footage. And my friend said, if you look, the driver, he points a gun directly in Kennedy's face and pulls the trigger. No one even acknowledges it. No one wants to talk about it. But I don't see that. I've never seen that. I've watched, like I said, I looped it specifically looking for that, and I didn't see it. I don't know. Out of habit, because of work, I was going to say, I just work here, but I don't work here. I don't even work here. So, those are the 3 conspiracy theories I covered on here, expanded upon. Now I want to cover 2 more that aren't covered on here. The first one is usually closely linked to Kennedy because of what he said about, by the end of the decade, we're going to land a man on the moon. And then we did. And there's another one of the famous conspiracy theories is that we faked it, that we never went to the moon. And my personal thoughts on that is we did. Because we had we didn't have the there's a saying that was funny. I saw it was a few weeks ago. We had the ability to we had the ability to go to the moon before we had the ability to fake it or something like that. But every time, literally every piece of evidence someone has for it being fake has been disproven. And one of the big ones is you don't see the stars in the video of them out in space. You don't see the stars at all. It's because of all the bright lights. You ever been in the city at night? You look up, no stars. I grew up in the country. We had no lights out there. You see every star. You see the Milky Way. And then, for some reason that I still don't know why, we had a light, one of those big, because we have the telephone pole, so we can get electric and internet and everything. We had a light put on there to light the entire yard up. The stars went bye-bye. Just one little light. And they had a lot of spotlights on that lunar lander. No stars. And then another thing they say is when Neil Armstrong, I think it was Neil, maybe it was Buzz, I don't know, they go to put the flag in the ground and he twists it, and it's waving in the wind. Oh, there's no wind on the moon. Yeah, but there's also zero gravity. And that's famous for when you move something and it keeps going. Because zero gravity. It wasn't wind. It wasn't even acting like wind because it was flat. You notice it wasn't waving like it was waving in the wind because it was stiff and flat, and it was kind of like going, because he was twisting it and it was just like wagging back and forth, not waving like it was a piece of cloth. I don't know if it was, there was a fly. I don't know if it was that lunar thing. One of the trips to the moon, I remember when the lunar lander launched off the moon, the flag fell over. I don't think it was the first one, but at one point, because I think there was 6 trips to the moon. I don't remember, but at one point when they went to go leave the moon, the flag fell over, and I thought that was funny. There's no conspiracy to do with that. I just thought it was funny. Oh, that they were saying that Apollo 13 was because of, is for ratings. It's to get people interested again. Because Apollo 11 is the one that went to the moon. Apollo 12, Apollo 11 went to the moon. The whole world was watching. Apollo 12 goes to the moon. We've done that. We don't need to watch this one. So NASA was like, oh crap, what do we do? No one's watching. Let's fake a disaster. There we go. And the theory is that Jim Lovell, I think his name is, and the other two, they were safe on Earth the whole time on a soundstage. And they faked the whole thing to get the ratings, to get people to pay attention. And then on Apollo 14, everyone was watching again. Well, what's going to happen? Again, I don't think it was fake. I think all of those are real. Supposedly Stanley Kubrick is the one that directed the moon landing footage, and he gives it away in The Shining. Because he has the little kid, I think his name's Danny, wear that sweater that says Apollo 11, and that proves Stanley Kubrick directed. It doesn't prove anything. Like, my mind wanted to say, like, 5 things at once in my mind. And so, like, I literally just sat here with my mouth open going... like, I will say one of these, and none of them came out. And for the last conspiracy... Princess Diana. I actually remember the night she died. I just happened to turn on the TV. I was a little kid. I couldn't sleep. And I turned on the TV, and there was the news broadcast. I was watching TV, and the news broadcast came on about Princess Diana being in a car crash. And then I remember watching that, and then they announced she passed away. Of course, I was a kid. I didn't know who Princess Diana was. I recognized her because I'd see Princess Diana. I'd see her on TV all the time. And it said she passed away. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Put on the cartoons. Because, I don't know, I was like 8 or 9. Or something. Okay, so... conspiracy there. Actually, I'm gonna keep telling this in a story version, because when I tell people this, most people have never heard of this. This version, because up until a couple years ago, I just believed what the media said. There was an accident. There, nothing, no foul play. People say conspiracy. Of course, everything's a conspiracy. And then until a couple of years ago, I was at work, and a coworker and I were talking about stuff like this, like conspiracies. We discussed some of what I discussed here tonight, and we discussed other ones. And then she said something about, and then they also killed Princess Diana. And I was like, yeah, right, of course they killed Princess Diana. And she went on this rant saying that the royal family wanted her dead because she had divorced Charles, and something about, she had a lot of dirt on them and could easily expose them for stuff, and I don't remember everything she said, and I'm just kind of rolling my eyes like, okay, yeah, this is one. I'm just gonna let her talk, and then we'll move on to a different subject. And I guess you could tell that I wasn't paying attention. And she said, okay, tell me, how did she die? And I said, she was in a car accident. And she goes, what's the situation surrounding the car accident? What caused it? And I said, the paparazzi were following her, and they wouldn't leave her alone, and the car was, they were trying to get away from the paparazzi. And she goes, there you go. And I was like, how does that prove anything? And she said, if she was followed by the paparazzi, and there were so many paparazzi following her that they were trying to escape, how come there's no footage or pictures of the accident happening? Nobody saw it. And there's no, all the cameras and stuff, and I look into this, all the cameras of the paparazzi that were following her were collected and never returned. And she said that, and I was just sit there, in shock. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. Actually, there's pictures of the wreck, obviously, like, after it happened, but not of the wreck. Not of the crash. There's no footage of it happening that we know of, or pictures of it. And that's because it was collected. All of it. And now, if there was nothing if there's nothing going on, if there's nothing that they're trying to hide, why wouldn't they give that back? I mean, you can say, oh, it's for the respect because she's a famous person. It's, and you don't want to show that. I was talking about the Zapruder film a couple of conspiracies ago. There's literally a video of the president getting his head exploded by a bullet that everyone has seen in school. But they thought a video of a car crash with the princess in it would be too much. No. That doesn't make sense, actually. No. Again, I don't know if the royal family had her killed, but like I did look into it further after she said all that. She kind of freaked me out. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't. It was like a light bulb went on, like a explosion moment. It's like, oh, mind blown. And yeah, I looked into it a little bit, and I saw like the reason, like there were reasons the royal family would have wanted her dead. But like I can't think of some. I think something like she was offered their security service and she refused it, or something like that. And she also she had info on them that they were afraid that she was going to expose, which I don't think she was going to. I mean, it didn't look like she was going to. I don't think so. Because I don't know if she would have or not. But again, what I said earlier, you kill someone to keep them quiet, and that just causes people to look into the cause of death. And that just doesn't solve anything. It just, you killed someone, and now people are investigating the death, and they're like, because now we're talking about this. What were they willing to kill over? I mean, that's assuming they did, because knowing my luck, no one listens to my podcast, but the one person that listens to this episode is the Queen, and then she sends like a jet over here to kill me or something, or I don't know. I don't think she would do a jet. It would probably be like James Bond or something. I don't know. I don't know how the Queen kills people. I mean, assuming she kills people. I don't know. Is it like... Well, I was going to say like a British House of Cards, but I remember House of Cards was British to begin with. And then the Americans made it. So, it's the British version of the American House of Cards, except with the Queen. So, I don't know. My TV just shut off, because the Xbox shut off. I gotta turn the TV back on, and there's the info again. I kind of want to cover another conspiracy, but I can't think of one off the top of my... Wait, actually, hang on. I have a bunch of things here. There actually is... why isn't this working? It says my internet is off, but I know it's on. So, let's try reconnecting. Yeah, it's connected. Alright, so, connect. I disconnected and then reconnected. It is connecting. Checking network requirements. Hopefully this loads, so I can't connect to this network. Okay. Let me turn my hotspot off. Now my hotspot is off. Give it a few seconds. Turning hotspot back on. Alright. Give that a few seconds and connect. Connect it. There we go. Refresh. Maybe it'll work now. Cannot wait to get real Wi-Fi. And now it says it's loading. It didn't immediately go to not connected. So, there was a story. I was going to make this a whole episode, but I don't have enough material on it to make it a whole episode. So I'm just going to add it here and have it be the last. It's not really a conspiracy theory, but I see it on a lot of like conspiracy websites because people see it as a conspiracy. Oh, they're trying to cover something up. But I'll tell the story of what it is, and then I'm going to give my theory. On October 20th, 2012, so like 11 days before the conspiracy post, I did a post about the Tunguska event. I'm just gonna wait. How long is this? Okay, it's not too long. I'm just gonna read this. You're walking in the middle of the woods along a river. It's nice and peaceful. It looks perfect. Nothing could ever ruin this for you. Except for maybe an energy blast the equivalent of 30 megatons of TNT leveling everything for hundreds of miles. Luckily, no one was injured when the Tunguska event occurred in remote Russia on the 30th of June, 1908. The witnesses saw a bluish light in the sky, followed by a bright flash and the sound of artillery fire, which produced a shockwave strong enough to knock people over and shatter windows. One witness would later go on to say, when the sky opened up, hot wind raced between the houses, like from cannons, which left traces on the ground, like pathways, and it damaged some crops. Later we saw that many windows were shattered, and in the barn a part of the iron lock snapped. Because of the isolation of the area, little interest was sparked by this unusual event at the time. The first recorded attempt to investigate it was many years later, in 1921. The cause of the event is believed to have been an exploding comet or asteroid as it entered Earth's atmosphere. In the 1970s, a couple physicists believed it may have been caused by a small black hole passing through Earth, although this theory is considered by many to be flawed. A science fiction writer from the 40s wrote a story titled The Explosion, which blamed the event on aliens. Below is a map indicating the affected region, affected area. Below are a couple photos, and that's the end of the post. Okay, so I'm sure most of the people listening to this, all two of you, have heard of this. It's both not well known and common knowledge, because usually when I mention it, everyone's like, I think I've heard of that. So everyone's aware of it, but they don't know much about it. So I first heard of it because I used to be really huge into like aliens and UFOs, and I'm still kind of interested, but I'm less into that now than I used to be. And I first heard about this because this was like the first, the first big UFO story of the 20th century, and it was covered up by, because that's why it took almost 20 years. It took, 10 years, or 1908, 1921. It took like 13 years. I'm not good at mathing. It took 13 years for them to even investigate it. That's because they were covering it up because it was an alien. Yeah, and that's how I first heard of it. And so for the longest time, I was like, oh, see, it's an alien. They were trying to attack, and they had a vendetta against those trees. No, that's not it at all. The reason I don't consider this a conspiracy or a UFO or paranormal or anything like that is the reason I put so much focus in the last paragraph about the exploding comet or asteroid is because after everything I've seen about it, all the documentaries I've watched on it and books I've read on it, and yes, I did study this for a long time. I was trying to find the evidence that pointed to this being alien in nature, and I didn't find it. It does sound like it was an exploding comet or asteroid, because that does happen. Granted, this was a large one, but yeah, this is an extreme example of it happening, but it does happen. Like sometimes they'll pass through, the famous thing where they pass through the atmosphere and they're burning, they're hot, they're on fire, they're red. And sometimes they explode. Mm-hmm. And this one must have been a really large one to cause so much damage. But that's what I think it is. And I was going to do a whole episode on it, but I've been talking about it for like 5 minutes, and I've already covered everything I can on it. Which, I don't know how... I've seen people do entire documentaries and books on the subject, but they have footage to go through. They actually go to the location, they do like experiments, they do diagrams, they do all these things. I'm on a podcast, and I just gave you the facts, and that's, there's no... I could go into more details, like, every single witness that witnessed it. I think they all gave testimony, and it's all recorded in a book somewhere. I could go look that up, but I already read one of them. It's really detailed. It was like half a paragraph. It was kind of poetic, actually. So I don't want to do that. But yeah, that was my first. This has been my first episode on conspiracies. I do plan on doing more of these because, like I said, when I did my first one, it was going to be a series on my blog, and then I never did more. But yeah, like I want to do this as a series because I want to have something that's a series on here that I turn to sometimes when I don't have anything else to turn to. And I've already done all of my ghost stories that I have for now. So I have a 4-part, and that was only because it was October. Because, again, scary. But yeah, in closing, I want to kind of do a little update on the last episode. I should have saved the Ubisoft post for now. Because when I posted that, it was coming off of playing Watch Dogs Legion. And I hadn't even finished it. I still haven't finished it. But I just played that for like a week. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk about Ubisoft. Knowing there was another big game right behind it. Like a couple days after I posted that, Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out. And I had it pre-ordered. I've been playing it the last few days. And I could have probably maybe not doubled the episode length, but like added another 10-20 minutes to it, talking about that game. And I won't go into too much detail on it because this is a conspiracy episode. I don't want to do like half the episode conspiracy and then the other half I'm talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But I will say that I gave a list of my favorite Assassin's Creed games. Number 1 being Odyssey. Well, now my number 1 is still Odyssey, but Valhalla is still really good. It's not currently. Again, I'm not that far into it. I just got to England yesterday. No spoilers. I just got to England yesterday 'cause I have to work and I have to sleep at some point, so I don't play it like all the time. So I got to England yesterday, and I've been kind of like running around doing some of those missions. And so far, it's not as good as Odyssey, but that's such a high bar. It would have been really hard for them to do that. I wasn't expecting it to be better than Odyssey. I know there's probably going to be people who are upset. Like, this game sucks, it's not better than the last one. But no, that's not realistic. It doesn't always have to top the previous one. We got lucky with Odyssey, because when Odyssey was about to come out, I was like, I don't think they can top Origins. And Odyssey came out, and I'm like, wow, they topped Origins. And then Valhalla was coming out, and I was like, I don't think they can top Odyssey. They didn't. But that doesn't mean it's not a good game. It's still good, it's just not as good as I was thinking it was going to be. Some of the change, again, I'm going to do a separate post about this at some point when I've played it further. Because there's things I like about it, things I don't like about it. Like, I want to do like a full review of the game once I've actually beat it. I was just going to say, hey, I'm playing Valhalla, but now I've spent like 2 or 3 minutes talking about it. And so instead, I'm just going to say, this is the end of the episode. I still don't have an outro. I should have like an outro thing that I say. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna end this here.